Michael Hernandez here, MLH Media. We are here today live for MLH Media Uncensored Episode 4. We're going to dive straight into it here because I have a very valuable guest that is waiting on the line here. But we're going to talk a little bit before we get to the call. Man, I told you guys that Anthony Hernandez and Michel Pereira fight was going to be an absolute amazing card, and that is exactly what they delivered. That whole entire card, I would say, was pretty damn spectacular to watch in terms of new fight fans getting to see a couple of new names rise, and then on top of that, we also got to see the development of a kind of new star being born in Mr. Anthony Hernandez. So we're just going to go ahead and jump straight into this reaction here for kind of this card. I mean, Anthony Hernandez, without a doubt, one of the most dominating performances that we have seen in all of 2024. Got the win over Michel Pereira with a fifth round TKO victory. And I mean, if you are just watching at home and watch this whole entire fight from start to finish, then you know exactly the story that was kind of being told about this fight. I mean, just an absolutely killer performance from Anthony Hernandez from start to finish. Had a little bit of trouble with the body shots in the beginning, but was able to bounce back. And that was kind of what the story of what a lot of people thought was going to possibly go into it. Obviously, seeing some weaknesses in Anthony's game in terms of some of the fights that he has had a little bit of weakness in the body, but I mean, he's just always been known to pour it on, put that gas tank on you, and that is exactly what he was able to do against Mr. Michel Pereira. Co-main event, Rob Font was able to get the victory despite the 400 plus odds against him. I mean, at a negative 500 favorite, Kyler Phillips just kind of, in better words, shit the bed. I mean, he was not at all looking to peak what he did. I mean, I had a couple of people kind of making some comments about obviously the Osterine test a couple of years back from Kyler Phillips. Obviously was not in favor of his cardio against Rob Font as well. I mean, it just seemed after that first round, there was absolutely nothing that Kyler Phillips was able to get started in terms of the offense against Rob Font. And then, Charles Johnson got another big win. Now his fourth win of the year, possibly was looking to hop on this Abu Dhabi card. I believe the UFC kind of nixed the idea of that, but still a very solid win from Charles Johnson. Looked very good from start to finish. Sumadarji didn't show any weaknesses as well. Had a very great performance, but just could not seem to kind of get inside the range of Charles Johnson. It seemed to be a very big issue for him, and Charles Johnson's a problem at 125 with his size and with his framing. Definitely makes it very difficult for a lot of these kind of smaller guys, especially at 125. And most guys are not going to be at 5'9" and have the length that energy Mr. Charles Johnson has, and he was able to go ahead and out there. And I mean, I gotta give a shout out to my guy Cameron Smotherman, man. I was like, I'm taking this guy. I feel like, he's got all the motivation going into it. Shout out to my guy MMA Locker Room Mills. He has a saying, he says, you stick with your guns, you stick with your guys, and we stuck with Cameron Smotherman, man. So shout out Cameron Smotherman getting the victory over Jake Hadley. I believe Jake Hadley is now kind of on the UFC roster watch. Possibly believe he was cut this past weekend after that performance, just because, not only did he have a little bit of trouble in terms of the fouling, I think it was a couple of groin shots that he had on Cameron Smotherman actually made him lose a point, or it was an eye poke. The eye poke actually made him lose a point. Then there was a groin shot that Jake Hadley had received from Cameron Smotherman a little bit earlier in the fight. Darren Elkins and Daniel Pineda put on an absolute show. A Sacramento native over there getting the win alongside Anthony Hernandez as well getting the win. Darren Elkins and Anthony Hernandez just putting on for the 916 this past Saturday. Darren Elkins had a very good performance. Possibly one of the more flashier performances we've seen from Darren Elkins in the past couple of years. We always know this guy's going to bring a pint of blood wherever he goes into whatever octagon he walks into, and he definitely brought that against Daniel Pineda. That whole octagon turned into a sea of red watching that fight. Absolutely amazing display between those two gentlemen, and congratulations to Daniel Pineda finishing out his UFC career on an actual, most guys say they go out on their shield and sword, but Daniel Pineda followed that all the way to the end, man. Mateus Nicolau wasn't able to get it done against Asu Amabaya, but definitely not a bad performance from him by any means. Just was not able to go ahead and get it done against a very dominant grappler. Asu just seemed to have the edge in that department, and that's kind of where it was. Gene Matsumoto also gained the victory against Brad Katona. Jocelyn Edwards had a very dominant performance. Gene Matsumoto as well had a very nice performance against a very hard opponent in Brad Katona to prepare for. You never really know where he's going to go. He likes to kind of charge against the cage and hold that grappling, but had a very, very dominant display in terms of just being able to negate the strengths of Brad Katona and just really kind of bring the fight where he wanted it. Jocelyn Edwards as well. I mean, I know she's had her weight issues in the past, but wow, just a whole different type of breed it looked like against Tamiris Vidal. And it just, this is something that you kind of see in terms of the UFC, the women's bantamweight division, even sometimes the flyweight. You see kind of a new rise sometimes once these ladies kind of get the weight cuts right, they get everything dialed in terms of their nutrition, and maybe being around that UFC PI has just really helped Jocelyn Edwards. I know that she is from originally Panama, but I believe she does train in the Las Vegas or Florida area, so you know she's not very far from a UFC PI if she ever does need it. I mean, I know UFC always is kind of bringing fighters in to be able to go ahead and get work done at the PI if it is needed, especially in a case like Jocelyn Edwards. And she was, I believe, on a 2-fight skid. So this is a fight that she needed to win. Tamiris Vidal just didn't have what it took to get the win up against Jocelyn Edwards. And this one just did not seem like she was, the lights were really turned on in terms of her performance out there. Elise Reed also gained a very dominant win against Jessica Penne. Melissa Martinez, I stuck with her, gained the victory. I believe that she should have. I mean, I don't know how that was not a finish with the body shot that she landed on Elise Ardeline. I think they called it a groin shot, which, like, I mean, anatomy lesson. I don't know. Like, the groin shots in women's MMA, I feel a lot more different than the groin shots that would be taken in obviously male mixed martial arts. So you guys can go ahead and watch the clip. I'm not going to try and have the UFC take down my video. I already don't grab up thousands of viewers, not trying to have them go ahead and take down this video. But Melissa Martinez landed a clean knee on Elise Ardeline, I believe in the 3rd round or 2nd round, and it should have been all she wrote, but instead referee said that it was a groin shot, called the fight, and gave Elise some time to go ahead and grab her breath. And then, I mean, she still wasn't able to go ahead and grab the decision. I believe Melissa Martinez had done too much at that point for even judges to kind of look at it that way. So that's kind of where I'm just drawing this confusion, drawing a real big cloud. But it definitely, I mean, congratulations to Melissa Martinez on earning that victory. Had a very, very good performance. Austin Lane had the kind of shocking performance of the night, the former Jacksonville Jaguar. And once again, shout out to my guy Mills over there, big Jacksonville Jaguars fan, was able to get the win against Robellis Despaigne. That was something that a lot of people did not expect, especially with Austin Lane's style. I mean, he loves to go in there, loves to charge forward, loves to bring it to you. And you've seen that a little bit in terms of Robellis trying to kind of get Austin in that dance, but Austin was not having any sort of liking to it. He brought it straight to the ground and was able to go ahead and grab that victory against Robellis Despaigne. Robellis Despaigne kind of on a hot seat now in the UFC. Has dropped 2 in a row to Waldes Cordes Costa, and then now Austin Lane, 2 of the probably non-ranking heavyweights in terms of flashy guys. So definitely not the brightest look for Robellis Despaigne. We'll see if he can kind of get back on the wagon here looking forward. If you fancy didn't know, though, also going to be going over there to the Visalia area, commentating 559 Fights 109. It's crazy to think that I've been working for them since, I believe the 90s, but we have an absolute amazing card as well for this one, and I believe that you fans are really going to love what we got coming up here in terms of the special guest that I was able to go ahead and garner for this lovely Wednesday afternoon. A former champion over there at A1 Combat is the likes of Ramon Cornejo. He's going to be taking on Isaiah Walls in our main event, along with George Burgos and Paul Furr, a matchup that has been kind of brewing for quite some time now over here in the California amateur scene. Now, finally taking place for that 559 Fights Flyweight Championship. Brianna Stevens looking to possibly earn her 2nd mixed martial arts win against Jasmine Hernandez. She's, from what I've heard, a very, very bright prospect coming out of that Los Angeles area. But Brianna Stevens had a very nice showing against a former collegiate wrestler her last time out. So possibly looking to build up on that 2-0. Jasmine looking to break into the mixed martial arts scene over here in the state of California. Joshua Simpson looking to take on Adrian Reyes. And I got to speak with Josh a little bit earlier this week, and he kind of told it to me best. He thinks this is going to be a stand-em-up, bang-em fight, and I completely agree with them. I know that both these guys have showed that they can grapple in a lot of their fights, but man, I really, really think that there's going to be just a whole new level of striking being shown on display over there at the Visalia Convention Center. So make sure, if you have not already, to make sure and buy your tickets. We got tons of 559 Fights fans' favorites, Johnny Reyes, Chris Chapa, Moses Contreras. The list goes on and on. I can just go on and on throughout this card, but definitely a stacked one that we have in store for you over there at the Visalia Convention Center, October 25th. Make sure to buy your tickets. If you are not going to be buying your tickets and attending in person, make sure you go ahead, download the Zine app, or go ahead and get My TV 53. We'll go ahead and get you watching live at 7:30 p.m. for that main card. We now